Yeah, I know and Noah bond over that.
News is creepy.
All right, ladies, I believe that we should begin the formal part of our meeting. It's very nice to be able to introduce our presenter today. Jaye Houston has been an integral force with Women on the Move from its inception. She has seen to it that we've had appropriate people as mentors that she hand selects from her classes. And she has served on our advisory council and is still doing so, and has been just a wonderful support to our organization and our efforts. And so now there's another way that she's helping us by offering to present today at our Women's Empowerment Workshop. Her topic, she will explain it more thoroughly, but as women, most of us have a love-hate relationship with food for one reason or another. And Jaye is going to demystify some of that for us today. So it is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Jaye Houston. She's a professor at the University of Laverne. That's how we first met her. And as I say, she is a stalwart supporter of Women on the Move Network, and she's our presenter for today.
Thank you, Barbara.
You're on.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here, and definitely in a totally different role than you guys know me. And Barbara was kind of shocked when I started talking with her about it, and I loved. You're doing what? She was very gracious. And so I'd like to just, before I start the PowerPoint, just say how I got here and what's behind my presentation here. And that is, before I was ever Dr. Jaye Houston, I had another life. So Hala knows a bit of this story. And there was a time in my life when I owned 3 diet center franchises. I was trained by them, and I counseled women on dieting and losing weight. I actually counseled men, families, and women. And it was a very rich experience. This was in Riverside, Redlands, and San Bernardino. And I was trained well by this company. And then, as life would have it, I ended up getting a divorce, and then I ended up saying, well, am I going to sit here for the rest of my life and do this? What else is there? So I moved on, and I moved to Ojai, California, which is a lovely, sleepy little place. I call it the metaphysical swap meet of Southern California, because everything is there. And along at the same time, I started studying spirituality, very, very deep spirituality. And I became a part of the Institute of Metapsychiatry, which was out of New York. And I became a research associate with them. And there in Ojai, I would give classes on spirituality, various topics. But I also said, I need to be working. What can I do? Well, Ventura's right up the road. So I went over to Nutrisystems, like, this is my background. And they loved me. They said, oh, here, yes, come on in. And so I worked for them, and nobody ever noticed. I tried their food, but nobody ever noticed that I never went on their diet because I was thin. So finally, I was called in and said, you have to go on the diet or you can't work here. And I was a vegetarian, and I had, lactose intolerant, blah, blah, blah. So she said, it's your choice. And I had also been told that I had to tell the women that they had to eat that packaged food for Thanksgiving. I had a problem with that. And so I sat there in her office, and I said, it's been really nice, and thank you very much. And I got up and I walked out. So I went back to my office in Ojai, and I said, there's got to be something. There has got to be a solution to weight and what it is. And I was so steeped in all of this, the spirituality that I was learning, And it was just like an inspired thought came and said, there is a definite connection between the spiritual components of what you're learning and people eating. So I wrote my own program and started working with women, just women, on weight loss using spiritual principles. And I was so happy. And what the women reported, and I love telling this because it kind of says it all, is that they would say, you know, I haven't lost all the weight I wanted to, but I sure am happy. I'm just happy. And I said, aha, you know, this is a nice marriage here. And then my life took another change of events. I ended up at UC Santa Barbara, you know, getting a degree in religion, sociology of religion, minor in global peace and security. And I still am commuting back and forth to Ojai and really integrating some of what I was learning in my courses at UC Santa Barbara with what I was doing there at Diet Directions. So then I go to leave Santa Barbara and my advisor says, where are you going to graduate school? I said, I'm not going to graduate school. I'm done. And he goes, no, you're not. And he was a very insistent man. And he said, where are you going to be in 10 years? And I sat back and I couldn't tell him. And he said, I'm telling you where you're going to be. So he said, this is where you're applying to graduate school. And this is when you're taking the GRE. And I walked out of his office and said, thank you very much. And I ended up getting accepted at Florida State. So I leave beautiful utopia, Santa Barbara, to go to Florida State, which was the most horrible experience and the best thing that ever happened to me in my life. One of the best things that ever happened to me, because it was such a culture shock that it expanded my awareness of what the world is about. It made me so rich in how I see the world. And while I was there, I started women's studies and got a certificate in women's studies. And I ended up interviewing women at the unit. There were 2 Unity churches there, interviewing them about their belief of God being Father, Mother, God. And how does that change women's lives? And what does that mean? And so I was ready to leave Florida State and be done. And then my friend says, Jay, where are you going to get your PhD? And I said, Harry, I'm tired and I'm done. And he goes, no, you can't stop. So I applied to Claremont here and got accepted in their women's studies and religion. And so I have my PhD in women's studies and religion, women's spirituality from a sociological perspective. And my dissertation was on women in the Holocaust. And this is a segue into where we're headed now. And I interviewed female Holocaust survivors and their granddaughters to see how having a grandmother that was a Holocaust survivor, how would that shape the contemporary life of these young college-age Jewish women? And it was fascinating, just fascinating. The upshot of it was, so many of the granddaughters talked about food. Working in the garden with my grandmother, I could feel her pain. Standing beside my grandma in the kitchen, chopping vegetables. This silence is there. It's Emerson's statement, what you are speaks so loud, I cannot hear a word you say. And all of this beautiful conversation was coming out of these granddaughters. Well, then I interviewed the female survivors. I never asked them, how did you survive? I asked them, what kept you going? And their response was very simple. It was food. They would talk about laying there in the death camp, freezing to death, starving, and they're talking about recipes. They're talking about food. They're talking about the high holy days and when they cooked this and when they cooked that.
I'm just watching the beginning to see what it is, how it is.
And so I was so
You
taken by this
Are you done?
in terms of this universal language of food. And the one thing that we as human beings need for our survival is food. So yes, I went on and, taught at the university and all of that. But my heart would still come back to this. And ironically, what's the class I teach on homelessness is people who don't have food. So this is a huge, long theme in my life for so many years. And it's such an important element of who we are as a human being. And that's why one of the reasons I love doing what I'm doing. The summer before COVID, I see a homeopathic doctor down in Newport Beach, and he had introduced me to HeartMath. And HeartMath is an organization in Northern California that does heart-brain coherence for reducing stress, and I'm going to talk about this more, anxiety, frustration, and those things through breathing techniques and meditation. And so I started practicing HeartMath. And then I'm on their website, and all of a sudden, oh, I can become a certified HeartMath practitioner. I love this. So the summer before COVID, I finished my program and became a HeartMath practitioner. Wonderful. Well, so then my daughter says, Mom, all this stuff is popping up on social media, the web. You've got all this rich background. Why don't you do something with that? I'm going, okay. So after meditating on it a lot, SoulCentered Eating came about. And so what I've been able to do is work with women from a very spiritual perspective. And these are women who have tried everything and don't have the energy, the motivation, and don't want to go on a diet. I get it. I totally get it now. And it's opened up a whole new window for me and for them. So that's how I got to where I am now. And that is the birth of Soul-Centered Eating, and specifically talking about emotional eating. Now, I'd like to just jump ahead just for a moment and say, because of presenting for Women on the Move, I made sure to add an extra element to this presentation, and that is body shaming. And I did this for us as women, but also for the program that we have with these young girls. And you'll see in the slides just where we are as a society when it comes to body shaming and what that means. So my presence here is twofold, is to deeply expand on and give space for a conversation for us to talk about body shaming, not only from ourselves, but with the young girls that we're working with and trying to make an impact on their lives and make a difference in their lives. So with that said, I'll start my PowerPoint if I can screen share. Okay, can everyone see that? Can everyone see that? I can't.
Yes.
I can't
Yes.
see. Let me get the grid over here. Yeah, let's see. There we go. Okay. So where I'm starting is, and And this is where I'm coming from, is what we're talking about is nutrition for the soul in terms of emotional eating, body shaming, and soul satisfaction. I love this idea of nutrition for the soul because we don't often think of the soul and what is the soul and what does that mean for me? And how do I feed my soul? We talk about the dark night of the soul, but how do you feed your soul? And what does that mean for me and my body today? Let me move this down here. It's not wanting to go forward. The PowerPoint's not. There we go. So here we start. Yeah. Through the years, this is what I've come to see is that we are, and we eat our words, our thoughts. And how I would like to start this, us thinking about this is for everyone to think on the childhood dinner table that you sat at. And what did your parents say to you when you didn't want to finish your plate of food? The people that I've talked to, they say, in fact, one lady's just so funny about it all. She says, I always wanted to say, well, then package it up and send it to China because I don't want to eat these green beans. And I get it. Or if we ate something and we didn't want any more of it, if we went to throw it out, don't throw food out. These words matter, and they were spoken to us by others, and we've internalized them. We have internalized them. And when I talk with women, they say, I do clean my plate. I do eat it all because I was taught to finish your plate. You don't waste food. These words matter and they stick with us. Well, I have a friend who has a great sense of humor. And through the years, she and I have laughed, and she came up with this saying that I love. And it is, once a thought becomes a who, it sticks to you like super glue. Now, what does that mean? It means these words since our childhood that have been spoken to us matter, and they've stuck. Because when I hear myself say, oh, I always did this when it came to food, or I always, would get to a party and want to try everything on the whole table. It's becoming the who that I am. And then, as Barbara pointed to earlier, is that who are we today, and how do we view the body? What are your thoughts about body as you stand in front of the mirror just after getting out of the shower? I have one client says, I don't even look. And another one says, well, I look, but I just slather on all this rich lotion and I tell it I'm being as nice to it as I can through using lotion, which I absolutely love. But it's pointing us to, we're not comfortable in this vehicle that we're walking around in. And most especially when I have asked, tell me about your body, what I get are descriptions from the neck down. And the head is not included. How do we see ourselves as this whole soul woman, this whole being, if we don't include ourselves in the whole thing? So that's step one here, is how do I see myself today? And am I seeing myself as this whole soul woman instead of body parts? Oh, it's my butt. Oh, it's my stomach. Oh, it's my this. Oh, it's my that. And we are the one that are actually dissecting ourselves up into body parts. And that's not helpful because what we're really dissecting is just a whole compilation of thoughts and beliefs that we have about ourselves that may in fact not even be true, but we've made a story out of them. We've created this narrative of ourselves that may not actually have any validity or truth to it. And so when we look at the body, what we're looking at, thoughts, feelings, beliefs, and emotions. I'm going to say that again. When we look at our body, what we're really looking at is thoughts, feelings, beliefs, and emotions. When I talk about emotions and body, research shows that 75% of the US population are emotional eaters. That is a huge percentage of the whole population of the United States. And that's why I'm endeavoring to help women who've tried everything to lose weight uncover their body wisdom. There is a wisdom here that we don't hold space for because we're so ingrained in these thoughts and these beliefs and these emotions. My goal is to help individuals know themselves inside and out so they can heal emotional eating patterns and break diet myths. That's a huge thing, just all of the diet myths and what they are. And why do we want to do this? Why are we interested in this? It's so we can live comfortably in this body, just to simply bend and be flexible and move through life with a grace that is a greater sense of well-being. It's not just being comfortable in the body. It's absolutely embracing yourself with a greater sense of well-being, to be so comfortable that you can flex and bend and move and never second doubt how you're going to get to the next step. So my starting point in this comes to Deepak Chopra. And I love this statement from him. He says, if you want to know your thoughts of the past, just look at your body today. And if you want to know what your body's going to look like in the future, you look at your thoughts today. I want to say that again because it takes a while for this to sink in. If you want to know your thoughts of the past, you look at your body today. And if you want to know what your body's going to look like in the future, you look at your thoughts today. Thoughts matter. Let me remind you, once a thought becomes a who, it sticks to you like super glue. We're carrying the past while trying to live in the present, but the future's always pulling us. And that's where fear, frustration, anxiety, stress enters the picture along with emotions, So how did I get to a place to even talk about emotional eating? Well, this is really what helped start this journey. I started emotional eating at age 14, 15. And I'll tell you the story. My father died when I was 14. And it was expected. He was 39 years old. My mom was 37. Here she is, a widow with a teenage daughter. And my sister was at that time out of the house. And she didn't know what to do with me because she was trying to manage herself. My mom was. Well, the only thing she knew how to do of a woman of her age was get married again. Within 14 months, my mom remarried. She married a man who had a son that was 6 months older than I was. Well, he got transferred from the town we lived in, this was in Texas, to Amarillo, Texas, which was 90 miles away from where I lived. So here I am, I'm packed up and moving into a house with a stepbrother who was a real hellraiser. I mean, really hellraiser. He made everybody's life miserable. A stepdad that I didn't even want because I was grieving for my father. And a mom who was trying to know what it meant to raise a teenage hell-raising boy. And make a new husband happy. And so I was left alone, so to speak. So the only thing I knew that I could do and find comfort was eating. And I started to eat. I had never had a weight problem. I was small. And all of a sudden, I'm getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I knew it, but I didn't know how to stop it. What happened was I developed certain eating patterns, and I was at a loss for what to do. I just knew I was in a strange school, trying to make friends, but this grief was still just embedded in me. So what does a teenage girl start to do a year later after she's gained, 25, 30 pounds? Was go on a diet. And of course, what's the best diet to go on? It's a starvation diet, of course. So I starved myself to the point that I would pass out because I didn't have any other answers. So what do I know today that I didn't know as a teenager is most any diet works. We know they work, but we have to ask ourselves, so what's the issue here? Here I was now an emotional eater trying to follow a diet. But the point is, diets are actually designed for us to fail. They will never market it that way. But that's why people go back to Nutrisysms or Noom or Weight Watchers or, become a lifetime member of Weight Watchers. That's a clue if they want you to become a lifetime member. And so it says, do I want to diet for the rest of my life? So all of this is just part of where I am today, because diets really are designed for us to fail. Why? Because they separate us from ourselves. We're following a list of foods out here that's a restricted list. The sad part is we cease listening to our body. We're not in touch with ourselves. We don't see the connection between our emotions and when we're eating. We just think we've got an eating problem, but it's not an eating problem. It's not a food problem. And so we cease paying attention to what the body really needs. There are deep emotions that are rarely addressed, like grief in my case, or wounds of things that have happened, or words. And I want to stop here and just share. So I worked with a woman for quite some time because she had a deep wound. What was her wound? When she was a child, her mom would tie her hands to the high chair and not let her feed herself because the mom didn't want her to make a mess. And she swore as soon as she could move her hands, she would eat, and she did eat. But the wound was so deep, it took her as an adult to be able to unpack that, to understand that she didn't have a food problem. It was a deep wound that was there. Another thing that diets do is they keep us busy to make sure we're following the rules, right? There are good foods and there are bad foods, and there are good days and there are bad days. And oh, what happened to your willpower? Don't you have enough willpower not to do that? Or the comment, and this goes back to what sticks to you like super glue, I just can't get motivated to diet. I'm just hopeless here. All of this is part of the diet myth that we bought into that hasn't served us well. And that's one question that I invite individuals to ask, is this serving me well? Which brings me to body shaming. The number one issue of bullying at schools is related to body image and weight. 94% of body shaming or mocking is totally all about body and the size of the body. And we as a society, it's only been in the past few years that we've recognized this issue in our public schools. My first encounter with body shaming came from a man, his name was Brooks. It was funny, I was writing this out and I'm going, oh, his name popped in my head and I'm going, oh my gosh, I forgot all about his name. But my grandfather owned a grocery store and my dad and I would go there every Saturday and work in the grocery store. And I was just a kid, but I would go, you know, arrange the apples or whatever. And one of the delivery men name was Brooks. Well, at 6 years old, I had my appendix out, and it was pretty serious. And so I'm standing in my grandfather's grocery store. Now, granted, I can let Brooks off the hook because he didn't know, but I was a small little kid, but my gut was all swollen from having this appendicitis surgery. And he turns around and he looks at me and he goes, "Is that your stomach sticking out there?" Oh, geez. Well, that was my body thing for the rest of my life there, in terms of I internalized that, your stomach sticking out. And I could feel myself, this young little 6-year-old standing there in the grocery store, just shrinking because there was something wrong with me. It was bad. The second encounter with body shaming was my mother's critical eye as a teenager. When I was gaining all the weight, when I was grieving, she never said one word about my weight. All she would do was just look, and she would just look at me. We would go shopping and she would just look at me. That was a form of body shaming. And if you can think back, when was there a time when you felt shamed by someone? Did you feel yourself shrink? All of this affects us and we internalize it. When it comes to body shaming, what happens is that women will try to go in the other direction. You know, take myself as an example for stomach. Oh my gosh, what can I do to make my stomach flatter? We'll sacrifice our mental health and our physical health, striving to move beyond the mocking of body shaming. One of the questions I thought was important to address that you might have is, what's the difference between kids and adults regarding body image? 64% of all teenagers have encountered some form of body shaming. And we can compare that with 61% of people 18 and up feel negative or very negative about their body image because of comparison thinking. Oh, what she got that I don't have. Oh, look at her. And so we keep reinforcing this, that we're less than, through comparison thinking. And certainly the media does a beautiful job for us in terms of body shaming. Yes, there are companies, who was it, Dove soap, that came out that was talking about different shaped bodies, and I totally support that idea, because just because someone's thin doesn't mean they're necessarily healthy, and just because someone is a little overweight doesn't mean they're unhealthy. But we've bought into that. We've bought into this whole idea of the ideal body. So what's the solution here? Well, heart math, as I explained early on. And so there are dozens of food diets today. And the question heart math asks is, are you emotionally prepared for a diet? Their approach begins with emotional regulation. And simply, the greatest diet in the world is the world's worst diet if you can't stick to it. And that's absolutely true. It comes down to our emotions, of how we understand anxiety, anger, and other emotions that we experience in everyday life. So heart math talks about wholeness diet. I call it holistic, and that's where the nutrition for the soul is the language that I prefer, but it's about regulating your emotions through what heart math talks about in terms of heart intelligence, that our heart really does have an intelligence. There is research, heart math's done a lot of research on this heart intelligence, heart brain, and how what happens is if you can regulate and breathe, do these breathing exercises before and after you eat, you will see a great difference. And then the overeating gets reduced. Another thing that I love this, discovered right at around COVID, I try to walk every day, and I was out walking and I noticed all these people have all these great rocks in their yard. I love rocks. And so I found myself out walking and I would pick up a rock, and it was like the rock started talking to me and I could feel the energy from the rocks. And so I started researching it, and I found this earthing or grounding. Well, after all this, feeling the rock and the energy, I had a neighbor who had all these rocks that he didn't want. I built a rock garden during COVID, and I would go out every day, twice a day, and ground. So grounding is putting your bare feet on the Earth's surface, because the Earth, our planet Earth, has a natural flow of electric energy. And we have electrons in our body, and so they fuse together, and the energy gets transferred through us. And the benefit of this is that it reduces inflammation in the body. It decreases pain. It decreases stress. It increases your heart rate variability to a level that is healthy. It improves your sleep. It improves the cortisol rhythm in your body. And it works with your immune system. I swore I got through the first round of COVID just sitting out on that rock every day. And so earthing came about through, and I put this specifically here, the earthing movie. It's on YouTube and it's free. I highly recommend everybody watch that, because this Clinton Ober is his name, came up with this earthing, and they do incredible things of people in wheelchairs where their legs would swell out. They got them, they've invented these grounding mats that you can put in your house now and put your feet there. And what happens is it energizes the body in such a way that the swelling in the people's feet in the wheelchairs actually goes down. In this earthing movie, there's a woman that gives a testimony at the end. She lost 50 pounds by grounding every day. Going out, laying in the grass every day, she lost 50 pounds. I love that. If that's not a testimony that there's other ways to take care of this body, I don't know what is. So my third solution, of course, is soul-centered eating and nutrition for the soul. So when I work with clients, I have these 3 pillars that we work with, and it's self-inquiry. For example, one of the self-inquiry questions is, who just said what to me? Am I consoling myself with food? Now, that doesn't mean the person has to be in the room. You can be having a conversation with this person in your head, and all of a sudden you find yourself headed toward the kitchen. You don't even know how you got there. Well, you just had, a heated conversation with somebody in your head. So I walk people through various self-inquiry questions. The second thing is, self-awareness. Becoming self-aware of who we are and where we are in life, self-aware about body shaming comments that we're making to ourselves, and how self-inquiry and self-awareness happen is that's where your self-transformation comes into play. It's self-transforming. I recently started working with a woman who had a hernia, who had, she needed eye surgery, all of these kinds of things. And she had cancer just a few years ago. And as she puts it, she says, I was a hot mess when we started working together. And she's thriving now, losing weight, and is happy. And she says, it's like, pardon the pun, a weight has been lifted off of her because of our working with self-inquiry and self-awareness. It's a neuro-spiritual approach that will reduce stress, anxiety, frustration. There's no dieting in what I do. But what I think is important is for people to learn to eat with soul satisfaction. And what does that look like? It's not intuitive eating, it's self-awareness eating that becomes soul satisfaction. And I don't recommend any exercise, but I do encourage people to learn to move the body in the rhythm of its wisdom. That may mean doing some energy exercises at home. There's this woman on YouTube, check her out. Her name's Donna Eden, and she does all this energy work, and it's incredible. It's incredible. And I do think that walking is very good, and it goes back to earthing because we are spiritual beings living in a garden of nature, but we've lost sight of that, of the beauty of the sky and the flowers and the birds. And that's why I walk. Yes, it's moving my body in its rhythm, but it's the wisdom of connecting with where I really live. And what's the result of all of this is that you are taking care of the vehicle that carries your soul. I'm going to say that again. The point of this, the result of this is taking care of the vehicle that carries your soul. I have just embraced this idea so much of what does it mean to take care of the vehicle that carries my soul. And I thank you very much.
Thank you, Jaye.
You're welcome.
Diane?
So, if you have any questions for Jaye or thoughts or comments, just go ahead and unmute yourself and ask away.
Jaye is my soul sister, so I'm gonna be brave enough and share my comments. And she and I have spent a lot of good times together connecting soul to soul. So thank you for bringing that beautiful recollection of all that we had shared in the past today in a capsule. And I don't know how much of this we had talked about, but she knows that I'm from a culture from the Persian old dynasty of 3,000-year-old culture. And I don't know how much of that has seeped itself into the research you have done, but I certainly hope that you would, next time you interview someone with this subject in mind, that you would dig into talking to some Persian ladies and how food, has consumed us to the limit of sharing our love with our loved ones that way. And just to this day, when I know I have company coming over, I dream about the menu I'm going to put together. I lay in bed and think of how different ways I can create excitement with my audience. And the expression that this culture of 3,000 years has created for telling someone bon appetit is exactly the translation this: may your soul enjoy it.
Beautiful.
The words Nusha Jan means your inner soul may enjoy this food. And again, to this date, if people are going to speak at my dinner table, I would stop them because I want them to be just enjoying and appreciating and just letting their soul enjoy. So much of what you said is just exactly how I adore and love and enjoy food. And doesn't matter if I'm upset, food is still the medicine. If I'm happy, the food is the medicine. The only thing that I have difference of opinion, I think, with you is that I have to jump quickly back on the treadmill or on the elliptical so that little guilt feeling that comes with overeating could be resolved. But I honestly enjoyed your talk so much that I'm drooling over food right now. I just wish that we could share food together and then just explain how our soul is just devouring the experience with good company and having good conversation. So thank you.
Thank you, Sohaila. So Sohaila, can I ask you a question? Can you eat and jump on the treadmill because it's part of loving the vehicle that carries your soul instead of appeasing guilt thoughts?
It is. I want to continue to love. That goes to some other part of this analysis, and I know you know it. Whatever it is, I had the same mother critical eye of always wanting to see perfection in her daughter. And for me to always want to see perfection, the amount of time I put in the morning just to make sure that extra pound doesn't stick with me and stay is the motivation. So I don't do it right after the food, though. Actually, I do it first thing in the morning, right after my morning prayers. It's part of that whole soul, heart meditation. It completes my meditation, but de-stressing. I let my stress and the whole day plan comes out as I'm coordinating my heart and my feelings, and then looking forward to the dinner, the big dinner at night, because now I know I've burned the 500 calories that I wanted to have extra, and the French fries that Farah will bring home. So we'll bring home.
All right, so Haley, you're on the treadmill here. I appreciate what you're saying about mother's critical eye. I would be surprised if there's someone here on the screen that hasn't experienced that. I hope there is someone who possibly escaped that. But moms do have certain expectations about how their daughters should be. And we have shaped ourselves according to what should or shouldn't be. And where is the love to live an authentic life and be comfortable in this body and be at home in this vehicle? And that's top of your head to the bottom of your feet. Is how do you get comfortable in this and get rid of mother's critical eye? You know, that's big. That's big. And you and I've had these conversations about hair. And and how I was raised, I had aunts that owned, really exclusive dress shops. And so I had to be dressed to meet their critical eye as well. It's a lot of pressure on young women. It's a lot of pressure on young women. And how do we move beyond that to be able to say, I can dress because it's a benevolent universe and it's a loving universe and it's an orderly universe, and beauty is a part of that. And that is what I'm dressing. There's a question and that I came up with when I was in Ojai working with a client. She was trying to lose wait for her wedding, and she was going out to buy the dress for her rehearsal dinner. And she said, oh, I just don't know, you know, blah, 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 blah. And I looked at her and I said, you know what? Don't go shopping looking for a dress. So go shopping with this question. What does love look like today? Just drive up to the shopping center, walk in the door, ask yourself, what does love look like today? The next week she comes in my office just bouncing in the door. She goes, oh my gosh. She said, I asked that question, what does love look like today? She said, the first store I walked in, the perfect dress, perfect size, perfect color. And oh, by the way, it was on sale. That question is so powerful. And one of the practices that I use in the morning time is a little mantra that I wanted to share with all of you. And that is that when you're getting dressed in the morning time and you're out of the shower and you're standing there and looking in the mirror and you go, oh my gosh, there's a wrinkle, another wrinkle. No. The mantra is this. It's a rhyme and you'll get it. My face is the place of beauty and grace. My face is the place of beauty and grace. Face, place, beauty, grace. My day starts so much better. And then when I go to get dressed, instead of asking, you know, what am I going to wear? I'll go, what does love look like today? And then I'll find something I forgot I even had. And I put it on and go, gosh, this is cool. This is nice. When we embrace ourselves from this spiritual perspective, the world looks different. Our lives are different. And we're lighter weighted. We're not weighted down by, oh, what am I going to wear today? You know, well, I'm going to wear what's clean. No, what does love look like? Love will find something in that closet you haven't seen. And furthermore, you've got this face, place, beauty, and grace, and you're a total package because love is what's constituting your being right then, right there. It's so powerful. I mean, that if I could give everyone this gift, this would be it from this presentation. Your face right now at this very moment is the place of absolute beauty and grace. Just say that to yourself and feel yourself. Love yourself. Geez, we're hard on ourselves. We condemn ourselves so much and just reject. No wonder we ache, pain, and whatever, because we haven't said a kind word to ourselves, but let somebody call and, oh yes, lovely. Well, where was that 5 minutes ago when you were with yourself? If we don't embrace the self, how can we embrace the world? It begins and ends with us.
Jay, many of us are women whose lives are filled with multitasking squared.
Mm-hmm.
And at two different times in my life, that was how I survived. At one period, I had remarried. I had 2 children. I married a man with 2 children. We lived with his mother and his aunt. And I was working full time and going to graduate school and heavily involved in my faith community. And there we were all together in that house with the mother, the aunt, the 2 kids, the other 2 kids, the cat, the dog, and we all lived together in a little crooked house. And then another time in my life when I was involved in something else. And because I was stretched so thin, I had to eat to keep going. That was all I had. was to eat to keep going. And over a period of a number of years, I gained 100 pounds. And I still have most of that 100 pounds. So what do you do? What do you do? How could I have addressed that in a better way?
Well, I think that you start addressing it where you are now, not how could you have addressed it then. You start with, embracing yourself instead of, maybe, I don't know, Barbara, if that was regret, if it's regret for that, just listening to your words when you said you were stretched so thin, right? The flip side of the coin is, so I had to eat to be able to keep going. That was the coping mechanism at that time.
Right.
And quite truthfully, living in that home that you were living in, where was there comfort? Where do you find a comfortable, I look at the sofa behind you, it looks pretty comfortable there. And I suspect there wasn't a comfortable spot like that in this place to where you could sit down and be with yourself. See, and so what I invite clients to do, and I'm inviting you to do this, is to write yourself a letter. Write that woman that was stretched so thin a letter, and see what you have to say to her. You may have all the compassion in the world for her, that she was doing the best she could with what she had to work with. We don't know. But that's where that Deepak Chopra comment comes in. If you want to know your thoughts of the past, look at your body today. That's what I'm talking about. If you want to know what your body's going to look like in the future, you look at your thoughts today. It's so front and center present. It's not, well, that's gone, and yeah, well, I'm still carrying it. No, it's never too late to address these thoughts and drop the weight, the mental weight, and the physical weight follows. But it's a lot of mental work. But writing that woman a letter would be very, very helpful. Yeah, and I have my clients writing. They write, the lady that her hands were tied to the high chair. She's written a lot of letters to that little girl tied in that chair. She's written a lot of letters to her mother. And interestingly enough, her mom died. And when her mom was dying, she said, I could really see that my mother loved me, and I could really see that I loved her. Oh, it was worth its weight in gold. Absolute gold. Is that, why do I want to continue to carry this in my life from this day forward? Is that I will write this letter to this little girl now, or to this woman that was suffering then. There was no comfort, and food was the comfort. That was my thing too. As a teenager, is, I go through the bakery, the donut shop, in fact it was, and get three chocolate brownies with icing, eat those, and walk in and sit down and eat dinner as though I'd never had them, because my mom expected me to eat dinner. What's going to happen with that? I saw Andrea, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to share my thoughts on tonight. You started your presentation, and it literally spoke to me in ways. Growing up, that was the conversation at my dinner table. You have to finish eating all of that because you can't be wasteful, and you can't move until you finish eating that. For me, growing up, food was always a coping mechanism, like everyone else. But right now, because I myself are in a spiritual journey, I've learned that food and my weight are happiness and comfort, because I'm accepted for myself. My husband and I have a relationship where it used to be, well, if you don't look good, you're never going to find a man to get married. That was the common conversation that my household would have. And I was a single mother for 2 years. And my fear was, if I don't look snapped, I'm going to stay this way forever. So now that, you know, it's been 10 years of my marriage, very struggling, ups and downs, you know, how it can be, especially being young. The way that he loves me, I have no problem with food. The way that he pushes me to just not care, to just love me, allows me to create a space in myself where I can release. So all of that trauma that I had as a child is slowly vanishing. My weight, my body image isn't a priority anymore. It's the joy that I live in the moment, the happiness that I live in the moment, that has created a space where, yeah, I'm not happy all the time with my weight, but that's not to say it's because I'm not loved. It's to say I just sometimes don't like the reflection, but it's my own. It's not because I'm not accepted, or it's not for any other reason. So I think for me, getting in shape or eating healthy is part of growing up, but it's not about how I look like anymore. So I enjoyed your presentation. It captivated me. And it's now a perspective that I have reflecting as a mother. I have two preteen daughters. And you know how you mentioned, right? She's 14. So I can definitely relate to the I'm not going to eat version of that. But I can also appreciate, hey, mom, I'm not hungry, and respect her wishes, because I don't want her to continue growing up in a space like I did, where her relationship with food has become toxic and emotional eating becomes the only resort. So it's been a journey, but I'm grateful to be able to identify the issues and just kind of put things into a different perspective, because now I can appreciate the way that I push that on my daughters and allow them to create a space where it's okay. If you want to look a different way, we can do it in this way. And I'll always make it about food. So I think that's where I'm headed, and I appreciate your presentation. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you for your comments. And I love what you're saying, that you know you're loved. That is so important. And that it seems to be you're, for the most part, comfortable with yourself. And so the key would be is what are the best steps to take on those days that you're uncomfortable with the body, or you know you're not happy with it. And that would be my only response to it. But I love what you're saying, and I love the fact that you are mindful of these teenage daughters and trying not to do any damage there.
You know, it's a hard, because you can say everything and anything and it'll be wrong with a teenage daughter. But I think in those moments when I'm not happy with myself, the go-to move for me is just a walk. Going for a walk. It used to be running, but I can't even do that anymore. But that's okay. Just being out for a walk has really been the best release for me. But yeah, the teenage daughters, you have to tread lightly.
Yeah. Well, and so you heard me talking about walking. I love that you're doing that. And it really is about feeding your soul when you're walking like that. That's what you're doing. Mm-hmm. I love that. So keep feeding your soul. It's beautiful. Thank you, Andrea. Layla, your hand was up, and then Natalie.
Hi, sorry. First of all, sorry I joined late, but I was coming from work and I was a little late there. But I did enjoy your presentation. Thank you so much. And it's really very important topic. And I wanted to just make a couple of comments. One, the body shaming comes from the other side too. If you're too thin, you're being body shamed as well. Mm-hmm. So all my life, I grew up in society, where, being thin wasn't a good thing. So and until I came to the United States, I'm like, what, being thin is good? I was always asked as a kid, I've been thin all my life, from the age, I think 3 or 4, and I never had any issues with eating disorders, but I've been just very thin. So always, there were a lot of women, or men sometimes who would ask me, well, your mom is not feeding you. What's wrong with you? Why are you so skinny? And it continued in my teenage years. And my parents never did that, neither my mom or dad. They were actually always supportive of me and say, you are who you are, you look great, don't worry about it. But it stayed with me for, pretty much into my adulthood, and, my husband never, ever brought it up. He's very happy with the fact I'm thin, but it doesn't matter because it's just the view of the society and how people look at you. And now when I came to the US, I was introduced to the concept of eating disorder. So for me, I always felt I was worried people will think that I have an eating disorder. And it was really traumatic for me, and I'm one of those people who can never gain weight. I try, but it doesn't work for me. So weird. And there are some people, I have patients who are like that. And it's also hard for us to, just kind of to get to the point where you don't care of what people think. You just want to be healthy and you want to be happy, and I think it took me a long time to get there. And I still not 100% there, but I am there with the way of I'm going to eat and I'm going to live the way I want. And the most important thing is how I feel. If I feel healthy, that's what matters. And I think that's important. You feel healthy, you feel happy, and you have to stop worrying about what other people may or may not think of you. And I think that's really crucial. And as you said, you need to love yourself. Until you begin to love yourself and not worry about everybody else, then, you're not going to be happy ever with yourself. And that's what I'm being a physician. That's what I tell my patients. I say, it doesn't matter if you're overweight, if you are eating healthy, if you are, doing physical activities, that's what matters. If you feel good, it's how you feel. You can be overweight and be extremely healthy, and you can be thin and be very unhealthy. Yeah. So that's just, I just wanted to bring that up. And it's just, it kind of touched me, your presentation, because I've always felt that, there is always, judgment for the people. And, and I really have to, even now, I have to work hard in order not to worry about it.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. That's really important. And just a statement that I have worked with Layla, and this, I hope, adds to what you've already done such good work with for yourself, is what people think of you is none of your business.
Right, exactly. I agree.
So if you feel their mother critical eye, even though they're not your mother, just go, what they're thinking is none of my business. There's a scripture that says, you must be about your Father's business. Jesus said, I must be about my Father's business. So I always go, what people think of me is none of my business. I'm about the Father's business. And I just keep on going. And it really helps. But I love what you're saying. Thank you so much for sharing that. Natalie.
I just wanted to say that your presentation was wonderful tonight. And I myself has had my own trouble with weight. When I was younger and I came off one of my anti-seizure meds, they put me on another one where I gained quite a bit of weight just from the medication change. And instead of my parents addressing with the doctor, they thought shaming me would help me to lose weight, which did the total opposite. It sent me to a very dark state of depression. And I, for many years, have yo-yoed up and down on diets. I do really well. I get sick and gain weight. I fight like crazy to get it off and do well for a while. And then I fall back. And it's been really an eye-opener because when I had long haul COVID and my brain fog was so bad, I turned the stove on twice and forgot I was cooking food and felt dizzy and had to lay down, and thank God my husband was in the house and I didn't burn the house down. But I became so scared about it. I started ordering more takeout, thinking, okay, I have to eat and at least I won't set the house on fire. And I did gain weight from it, but I look back now and the same frustrations I'm feeling now, I felt when I was 30, 40 pounds lighter. I mean, before COVID, I power lift, I did martial arts, I did yoga, and even being very active, very competitive, it's almost like my brain has been stuck where I was as a child when I started having the weight difficulties. And I feel that, and I don't know why, I feel I haven't allowed that 12-year-old to realize she's okay just the way she is. And I think that's been, I feel so many people get stuck in that that state, and it's hard to get out of it.
Mhm. Thank you for sharing that. And certainly the meds they mess with things terribly. It's a necessary step that we take sometimes to do what we need to do. If I could say, Natalie, it's kind of what I was talking with Barbara about, is write that 12-year-old a letter, and see what comes pouring out. This is powerful stuff. It sounds simple, but it's like it's like lifting the weights. It's lifting the weights off, this letter writing, because I could sit and go, well, Jay, have a conversation with yourself. And, no, I'm not schizo. I'm just having a conversation with myself. But at the same time, it's not the same thing as pen to paper. And there's some kind of magic that happens in that pen to paper to write that 12-year-old a letter. I quite truthfully, when I wrote, I ended up, starting at when the delivery guy said, "Is that your stomach sticking out there?" I wrote until I couldn't write anymore. And it was so helpful to get it out in front of me that I didn't even know I was entertaining half of the thoughts that were in my head. The filter, the ego, doesn't allow us to go there. But there's something about pen and paper, and you can shred it later. It's priceless. It's a gift you give to yourself, to take that time and say, I love you so much. I'm going to write this 12-year-old a letter and see what she's still present where you are right now. She hasn't gone away. That's what I find with emotional eaters, they don't get, is that you're still carrying that. You're still carrying that. And so to be able to write this letter and get it out there, you go, oh my gosh, I had no idea that she felt that way. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Jay, me too. I've identified with so much of what you said. Recent, and I've been up and down and up and down and up and down my whole life, that yo-yo, to the point where about a year ago, I developed gallstones and started having gallbladder attacks. And everybody, oh, just have surgery, go have surgery. And I'm going, I don't want surgery. So I got a book about gallbladders and started reading about the diet and everything. And so what I've done is I stopped eating butter. I stopped eating cheese. I stopped eating chocolate. I stopped eating ice cream, nuts, and egg yolks. And I've lost 50 pounds. And I have no more gallbladder attacks. So, it was like I say I got hit upside the head with a medical 2x4.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like a switch. Go ahead.
To see what you were doing, this is part of what I was talking about, Diane, was you were listening to your body. Hey, this gallbladder hurts. Hey, I don't like these stones. Heck no, I'm not going to have surgery. There's another answer. And that's where I get so frustrated when I see all these diet commercials, is separating you from your body, separating from your thoughts, separating from your feelings, your emotions, whatnot. And you're seeing pain, and you take the steps to care for yourself. Yeah. And yeah, that's so important. So important.
Yeah.
So congratulations.
Thanks. Thanks. I kind of feel like, okay, why didn't I do this 50, 60 years ago? I didn't have I guess the realization, and I was too, I was emotional eating. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look at the statistic here. 75% of our population are emotional eaters.
Yeah.
That's a heck of a lot.
Yeah.
Emotional eating, right?
Yeah.
Meaning that when we look at the stresses that we go through today, I mean, so when I look at COVID,
Mm-hmm.
That's stress. That's absolute stress.
Yeah.
And people have lost loved ones.
Mm-hmm.
So they're eating because they're grieving,
Mm-hmm.
right? And when they talk about the COVID-15 or the COVID-20, it makes my heart bleed in a sense that, no, that is just pain. It's pain and suffering. It's what it is. And I have a friend who, you know, she's got the same kind of body type as Sohaila. You know, she's a gorgeous woman. And she gained 15 pounds during COVID, and I saw her for the first time. And she said, "Don't say a word." She said, "I made the mistake of buying a bread machine during COVID." He was baking bread the whole time.
Yeah.
And, you know, and so now she's back to work and blah, 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 and she's fine. But she knew she was emotionally eating and what she's doing. So we do, I think, Diane, the question of why didn't I do this a long time ago doesn't matter. It's a no question. It's a no question. It is that that's not going to be front and center and heal what is present right here, right now. When I say, you know, to Natalie, that 12-year-old little girl, she's still sitting there with those headphones on right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you write her a letter.
Yeah.
Right.
I went, the gastroenterologist suggested I go talk to a surgeon just to, you know, so I went ahead and I did. I went and talked to a surgeon, and he's of the opinion that statistically that sooner or later I'm going to have surgery. And then he said, if you have surgery, you can eat anything you want. And I kind of looked at him like, that's the problem.
Yeah.
So no, I'm not gonna, not unless, you know, something happens. I'm not going down that road at all. And then I had one other question.
Okay.
When you were talking about interviewing people, survivors of the Holocaust, did you have a chance to talk to a woman by the name of Nina Marecki? No, she, she's probably passed on. Edie knows her, and so does Barbara. We met her through, I don't know. I don't remember how we met her, but she lived in Pomona. She lived across from the mosque right there on town in Pomona, in the apartments there. And she was a Holocaust survivor. And the stories that she told us about what she survived were just,
yeah.
Oh my God.
No, they had to have a granddaughter in order for me to interview them.
I think she did have a daughter.
Yeah. A granddaughter.
A granddaughter. That I'm not sure of. Yeah. Anyway, but thank you. This has been wonderful. I'm going to sit down and watch this with my daughter.
Oh, good.
Her daughter. Yes.
And so Diane, for your gallbladder.
Yeah.
Please watch the Earthing movie.
Oh yeah, I wrote it down.
Yeah. Yes, I mean, it knocks my socks off. So when I started that, you know, I had this boulder moved so I could go sit on it every day. And instead of drinking coffee, I would go sit barefoot, my feet in the grass, my butt on the rock, and I would sit there and just meditate and look at the sky and listen to the birds, and, you know, everything was locked down, and I'm going, this is all right.
Uh-huh.
Think of it as I was so energized when I came back in, you'd think I'd had a double shot of caffeine, and I'm just booking it, just working because I had all this energy.
Yeah.
I had no idea that the earth gives us so much energy. And this guy says the biggest mistake that happened to us is when they started making rubber sole shoes. He said, look at the world today, rubber sole shoes, because they insulate us from the earth. He says, and they actually make earthing shoes now. They're not very fashionable, so and how we are just separated from the earth. So you take diet separate us from ourselves. We're wearing these shoes that separate us from the earth. We have to create that time and that space to put our feet in the earth. You know, and I've talked to an acupuncturist about this. He totally supports that, as does this guy that I see down in Newport Beach. They both say yes, absolutely. But we just don't stop and think about this wonderful thing we're living in. We just ignore it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we ignore its signs unless it hurts, and then fix it quick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's where Layla comes in. She's supposed to fix it and fix it quick. And that's not it. It's that when we're honoring this, when our value is to honor ourselves, then everything falls into place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a little park down the street from me that I need to go back down, and it's just beautiful the way they've designed it. It's called Los Amigos Park, and it's got rosemary, and it's got flowers, and it's got water. Their water can go through it, and it's just beautiful. So I need to go back down. It's been so blasted cold that I don't even want to stick my nose out the door.
Right. Well, and so take your why are people happy when they're at the beach? They're grounding.
Mm-hmm.
They're grounding. You're barefoot in the sand, you're grounding there. You know, so that's why everybody's happy at the beach. You know.
Well, you know what? You put me in place of when I was a child, and I was raised in Illinois, and when it wasn't cold time, soon as the sun came out, I would go barefoot the entire summer. I was not happy unless I was barefoot.
Because when you were
realizing, where in the backyard can I lay down? Well, can I get down there and can I get back up? But we have a dog, so can you lay a sheet out? I'm kidding.
No, you could lay the sheet out and
put
stick your feet in the grass.
Right.
But you know, Edie, they have, and they talk about this in his book. I have his book here. It's called Earthing. Mm-hmm. And they have mats. I have a friend in Ojai that actually bought an earthing mat that you plug into the wall. And they have earthing sheets that you sleep on. Huh? And she really loves her earthing mat that she puts it in her chair and just sits there for 30 minutes at a time and grounding there. So if that's a problem for you, that's something you could check out.
Well, I'm gonna try it. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll look weird when I get up, but
yeah, they have a website. So
I really appreciate all your information. I'm taking notes here.
Thank you.
Taking notes.
Thank you.
And I'm gonna go look up everything. The first thing I heard and related to was the Unity Church, because that's what I was raised with.
Oh, really?
Positive affirmations, and my mom used to stick notes all over the house, you know, and so and made sure we had the literature for children. Mm-hmm. So I feel like even though I'm overweight, the doctor says, "What's your problem? You're healthy."
Yeah.
And if I talk to him about losing weight, I want to lose weight, he doesn't even volunteer to give me something. Well, number one, he knows I'm not going to take drugs to do it anyway,
Right.
but that hit me. I want to lose weight, and someday I will. But it really surprised me that he said that. Why? You know, you're healthy. We don't want you getting sick, and so.
Well, I think that goes back to what Layla was saying, and what I said as well, is just because you're overweight doesn't mean that you're unhealthy.
Right.
And just because you're thin doesn't mean you're healthy.
Right.
And so that's part of this myth that we bought into. Oh, thin is healthy. Not necessarily. If you may have some mobility issues, and you can work with those, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you necessarily need to drop a few pounds unless you're just,
Well, I would like to add that I've made at least one parameter for myself.
Okay.
I was raised by a mom who worked probably at least maybe almost a quarter-acre garden, and so we always had fresh food. And now I have my son and his little family here, and they go buy fast food all the time. And at first I joined them and I went, wait a minute, this is not working. It's not working for my body. And so I stopped doing that and just doing my little thing, my spinach and eggs and whatever. But to make that parameter for myself, to make sure I eat what's fresh food.
Yes, that's beautiful.
Made out there food. It's just full of salt and awful stuff. So.
And stuff we don't know what is. I'm with you. Yeah. That's so important, and I appreciate your talking about fast food. I didn't even go there, but since you brought it up.
Sometimes I fool myself and say, well, what about those string beans? They're just dipped in tempura, and that doesn't work either. But.
Yeah. Well, you keep eating whatever you're eating because you look very healthy.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good. Okay.
So we have had a really rich conversation here with Jay, and probably we could go on forever, but we do try to be respectful of people's time with these sessions. So if there's any last burning question that you have for Jay, this is the time before we sort of come to the close.
I have a burning request for Jay.
Okay.
She mentioned something about the youth and how this program could be maybe custom made for our young, mentees and the mentoring programs that we have. We have a couple going and a few going at the same time. So I think we're going to be begging you to help us, as you have been so supportive, to maybe create a smaller version so we can incorporate it into the curriculum.
I would love that.
Yeah, and I know you.
Yeah, that would be very helpful.
Yeah, I would love to do that. So Hala, thank you for asking, because when I was looking up the statistics on it, and ironically, I had a conversation with somebody yesterday who has a 12-year-old son who is overweight. And she said he's suffering terribly at school because they're bullying him. And I said, yeah, I full well know what you're talking about. I'd love to do that. I think there's a very rich possibility for women on the move, and what you could do with that in many different ways, So yes, ask me, and I'm happy to do that. I do want to give a little plug right now. On the announcement, there was a link, and I have a 2-hour workshop coming up on February 15th from 7 to 9 at night. And it's, you can just click that link in the announcement and go straight to the workshop page on my website. And if anybody's interested in expanding this conversation on my website, you can also sign up for a discovery call, and it's a complimentary call that I will talk with you about your specific issues, and we go from there. And I have these meditations that I write, and they go out every Wednesday, and it's called Wednesday Wisdom. So go to my website and sign up for Wednesday Wisdom.
Oh,
Yeah,
very good.
I would love to share those with you. You know, sometimes I read them and I'm going, really? Where did that come from?
And if that's all right, we can push those through our emailing list to make sure people remember her workshop February 15th. Is that correct?
Yes. Thank you.
And then we'll do some plugs for you on our social media platforms as well. That way we can help you spread that, because this is such an important message. We really don't want to get lost in translation, for sure.
Oh, well, thank you, Andrea. I really appreciate that. And I appreciate you all being here and showing up and sharing your stories. My email is SoulCenteredEating@gmail.com.
Okay, so again, Jay, thank you so much for being one of our strong, stalwart, sustained, wonderful supporters all these years. And we expect to continue with you into the future.
As far as I know.
We will be talking to you about something for the girls, especially the middle school girls, because they're right at that age. Yeah. We do have body image as a part of our curriculum. We're on a shortened schedule because we started late because of the having to do everything online. We've had to alter our curriculum, and we have a book project that we have to fit in and other things, but definitely, as I said, body image is a part of our curriculum, and this fits right in. And so we'll be talking to you about how we might do something special, especially for our middle school girls.
Yeah. And
yeah.
If you ever have like a Zoom with the girls and you want me to come and facilitate some way, I'm happy to do that too.
Okay.
If I'm available.
Do a session. Okay. All right. Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
All right. So ladies, thank you very much for participating in our workshop. We will be with you again on the second Friday of February at 5 o'clock. And I hope that you will join us. You'll be getting a flyer soon. Andrea is the person who makes our beautiful flyers. Mm-hmm. And we are very appreciative of that. And thank you all for coming. And again, Jay, thank you. We'll see you soon.
Thank
you. Barbara, if I can just, if I can do a really quick plug-in, remember everybody on our Women on the Move Network YouTube channel, we do have all the previous workshops posted and available. For this week, it'll be up Monday. And if you would like to check out all social platforms, they are reshared everywhere that Women on the Move is known and on the website. So if you guys want to check out any previous workshops, share the workshops. I know we've had some really awesome workshops. And then also, I believe this is our last Overcoming Challenges series workshop. Is that correct, Barbara?
Yes, it is. It is. So and it's been a wonderful series. We've had 4 of these. One of them done by Natalie, who is here with us today, and her workshop is on our YouTube channel. It's about overcoming the challenges associated with epilepsy. And so anyway, check us out. We're doing good work, and we would appreciate your helping us to spread the word. Parvane, nice to see you. I hope you will join us again. It's wonderful to have you with us. And Karen as well, and all the rest of you.
Barbara,
bye-bye.
Barbara, can I end with a medicine woman's prayer? It's very short.
Yes.
Okay. It says, I will not rescue you, for you are not powerless. Mm-hmm. I will not fix you, for you are not broken. I will not heal you, for I see you in your wholeness. I will walk with you through the darkness as you remember your light.
Beautiful.
Very good. Very appropriate for today's workshop.
Thank you, Diane.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye, ladies.
Everyone, take
Bye.
care.
See you next month.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, Jay. Call me.
Bye.
So we can
Call me.
let's go lunch.
Okay.
Okay.